America right now is one of the biggest threats in America right now is the white liberal American woman. They are so fucking radicalized at this point that they can't even see that they're no longer fighting for Americans. They're willing to ride or die for fucking illegal criminals that have come into this country. It is absolutely absurd. And it's dangerous because these women also have kids. And they're pushing these radicalized fucking crazy ideology onto their children. And until we start fixing the problem with white American liberal women, shit is not going to change in this country. We're witnessing firsthand what happens when liberal women are radicalized in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You're literally seeing firsthand what happens. And until we can get through to those fucking women and make them realize, like, hey, you should be ride or die for American citizens because you're a fucking American. Period. What the fuck are you doing? Liberals need to get their heads out of their ass. Get their shit together. Because it's America first, motherfuckers.
Sorry for the language. Good morning, pineapples. That's some very strong language. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Are you guys glad to be here with me? Getting up so early in the morning, hanging out. Good morning, rebels, dissidents, everyone who believes that reality is not a social construct. Welcome to Wake Up America. I'm Austin Peterson. Today is Wednesday, January the 14th. Strap in. The world has officially lost its mind. We're the only ones taking notes. If you thought the Civil War was going to be fought by guys in tactical gear, you were wrong. It's being fought by women in Lululemon. That's right. The Karen Insurgency is here. We have affluent, bored, white liberal women in Minneapolis and Brooklyn who've decided that their new hobby isn't Pilates, it's playing chicken with federal agents. They're jumping in front of ICE vehicles. They're using their, quote, privilege as a human shield. And as we learned last week with the tragic death of Renee Good, physics does not care about your virtue signaling. We're going to break down the agitation training camps springing up in your neighborhood and ask the hard question. Why does the left want your mom to get a felony charge? But that's not all, because while the suburbs are burning, the media vultures are circling. Scott Adams, the genius behind Dilbert, and the man who taught us how the world actually works, has passed away. And before his body was even cold, the New York Times and People magazine were already trying to cancel him from the afterlife. They called him disgraced. I call him a prophet. We're going to roast the ghouls who are dancing on his grave and explain why Scott Adams was the only man in 2016 who saw the future. Plus, breaking news out of Washington, President Trump has finally cut up the credit card. As of February 1st, sanctuary cities are getting $0 federal dollars. You want to harbor criminals? Fine, but you're going to pay for it yourself. So the subsidized rebellion is over, and the mayors of New York and Chicago, of course, are screaming bloody murder. We love to see it. And the king and the candidate, we had a guest lineup that's going to melt the camera lens. Judge Andrew Napolitano is here, and he is furious. President Trump gave an interview where he said the only thing restraining his power is his own mind. The judge says that sounds like a king, not a president. We're going to have a brawl over the Constitution. Is Trump a dictator, or is he just the only sheriff in a lawless world? And then things get really hot. Aaron Baker, the grassroots candidate running for Congress in Florida, is going to be here with us today. He says he's America first, but a new report says he's living in a house owned by a convicted murderer and partying with sex offenders. We don't do softballs here. We vet our own. He's going to answer for it live, face-to-face at 8:30 a.m. Central. So it's going to be a show for the history books. We're naming names. We're bringing receipts. We're doing it all fueled by the nectar of the gods. Founding flavors, coffee, because you cannot fight the Karen insurgency on decaf. It is physically impossible. So grab your mug, hug your kids, check your wife's WhatsApp group to make sure she isn't planning a riot at the local ICE facility. I'm Austin Peterson. The asylum is open, but the inmates aren't running the show today. We are. This is Wake Up America. Let's go. All right. So, folks, I have a question for you. Do you ever turn on the news, just look at the absolute clown show in Washington, D.C., and ask yourself this? Did we really fight a revolution for this? Did men really freeze to death at Valley Forge so we could argue about gas stoves and light bulbs, right? Sometimes you just need a reality check in your life, right? You need to go back to the source code. You need a factory reset for your patriotism. And that is exactly what I am offering you this May. I'm inviting you to hop in a time machine with me. We're going to go to Boston, Massachusetts, May 1st and 2nd, the Peterson's Patriots 250th anniversary tour. We aren't just going to look at old buildings. We're going to walk the same cobblestones where Paul Revere rode. We're going to stand in the Old South Meeting House where Sam Adams, the man, not the beer, and maybe we'll have the beer too. We're going to breathe the same salt air that the Sons of Liberty breathed when they decided that they would rather be dangerous and free than safe and taxed. It's going to be incredible. But because I run a tight ship and because Steffi gets nervous when I spend money, we have some rules of engagement, okay? Rule number 1 is that the clock is ticking, right? We have a go, no-go deadline. We have exactly 30 days to sell the first 10 tickets. We sold 4. If we don't hit 10 by that time, the mission is scrubbed. I hit the refund button and we all stay home and watch Netflix. I don't want to stay home and watch Netflix. I want to watch you throw some tea into the harbor. Rule number 2, I am making it impossible for you to say no. Starting right now, for the next 10 days only, we are having a Bring a Patriot flash sale. If you buy 2 or more tickets, bring your wife, bring your husband, bring your liberal brother-in-law. We're going to try and deprogram him. You'll get 25% off your entire order. So use the code BOSTON25. If you are flying solo and you are a Peterson's Patriots subscriber, you have a code for 20% off your single ticket. You can't stack them. Don't be greedy. But either way, you are getting a deal, right? The bottom line is this. There's nothing like standing on the deck of a ship in Boston Harbor, watching the sun go down and realizing this is where the British Empire fell. This is where the idea of America was born. So come, stand there with me. Let's have a drink. Let's talk about liberty. Let's recharge our batteries so that we can come back and keep fighting the good fight. So go to forlibertyshop.com, click the banner, Peterson's Patriots, secure your spot. We've got less than 30 days now to make it happen, folks. Let's do it. Let's make history. Last year we did it. We made the news. All right, let's do it. So let's talk about the vibe shift. All right. It's Wednesday, January the 14th. I want you to close your eyes and picture a revolutionary. Let's go back to the summer of love. And guys, everybody remember 2020, right? What do you see? Right? You see a 22-year-old guy named Skylar wearing black bloc, smelling like patchouli and disappointment, throwing frozen water bottles at a courthouse in Portland. Right, that was the old model. Right, that was Antifa. But the revolution has had a makeover. It's had a glow up. If you look at the footage coming out of Minneapolis or Charlotte or Brooklyn today, you won't see Skylar. You'll see his mom. Right, the front line of the American resistance is no longer angry young men in hoodies. It's angry middle-aged women in Lululemon. I got another content warning for you. There's going to be some bad language in this next video.
Here we are at my official dating profile request. I am 42. Actually, I'm almost 42. I am a relationship anarchist. I am on the lookout for somebody who right now, I'd be able to call and say, hey, get in the passenger seat and let's go fuck some shit up. Because right now in Minneapolis, what is happening are we are being occupied by ICE agents who are, of course I couldn't get this on what is happening here, who are going door to door, it's because I'm doing it backwards, going door to door and kidnapping people from their homes. Not just from their homes, they are going to schools, they are going to churches, they are going to Target, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm not surprised about. We all know Target, right? So if that's you, if you're interested in fucking some shit up, if you're not afraid of a woman who can speak her mind, if you're interested in sitting in a side seat, message me. We got shit to do.
Oh, God. Honey, we're not afraid. We're not afraid of you. We're disgusted. So we are witnessing the rise of the Karen insurgency. So the same women who used to terrorize the manager at Starbucks because their oat milk latte wasn't exactly 140 degrees have found a new target. They've graduated from harassing baristas to hunting federal law enforcement officers. They're not knitting pussy hats anymore. They're forming rapid response networks on WhatsApp. They're jumping into their SUVs, the official assault vehicle of the suburbs, and they're playing chicken with ICE agents who are trying to arrest violent criminals and sex offenders. They call it civil disobedience. I call it suicide by privilege. She's single? She's single, boys. Shocker. And last week, we saw exactly where this delusion ends. In Minneapolis, 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good decided she was going to be a warrior. Now look at who Renee was. She wasn't a hardened criminal. She wasn't a cartel member. She was a poet, an Old Dominion University English major. Her bio said she made messy art. She was a mother of 3. She was the archetype of the modern secular suburban seeker, desperately looking for meaning in a world that she thinks is fascist. That when she saw an ICE operation going down, she didn't just film it, she literally intervened. She used her Honda Pilot, a vehicle designed to haul soccer cleats and groceries, as a battering ram to block federal agents. Now, in Renee's mind, she was probably imagining a scene from a movie. She probably thought that the agents would stop and they would be intimidated by her moral superiority. She probably pictured herself as that little girl statue that they put in front of the bull in Wall Street, as if that was just standing there with her arms on her hips was going to be enough to stop the bull from charging her down. She probably thought that her white woman privilege, the very thing that the left tells her is toxic, by the way, would act as a magical force field against bullets. But physics doesn't care about your social sciences degree. The federal criminal code definitely does not care about your intentions. So let's go to law school for a second, guys. Because these women clearly haven't been there, right? They think this is a game. They think that if they get caught, they'll get a stern talking to and maybe a viral TikTok video out of this. No. When you use a 4,000-pound SUV to threaten a federal officer, you are violating 18 U.S. Code Section 111. That is, assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers. If you just shove an agent, that is 8 years in federal prison. But if you use a deadly or dangerous weapon, and yes, a Honda Pilot is a deadly weapon, even the Minnesota Supreme Court ruled that, the maximum sentence is 20 years. You will miss your kid's graduation. You will miss your kid's wedding. You will die in a concrete box because you wanted to impress your friends on TikTok. Renee Good didn't know that. Or maybe she did, and she just thought that the rules didn't apply to her. When Agent Jonathan Ross fired 3 shots, the movie ended. Renee Good is dead. Not because she was a freedom fighter, but because she was stupid and she was lied to. And she didn't live in a world where people put good white women like her to work doing things to make them feel important. She was told that the real world had safety bumpers. It doesn't, right? Where does this start? All right, we're going to go back to 2020 again. We have to go back to 2020. Do you remember the wall of moms in Portland? Hundreds of white women in yellow shirts, linking arms, chanting, "Hands up, don't shoot," right? The media loved it, right? The Washington Post wrote about these women. They called them heroes. They treated them like they were Avengers. That was the gateway drug, right? That moment taught an entire generation of suburban women that they could use their motherhood as a political weapon. But the wall of moms was safe. They were standing in a line getting their picture taken. But what we are seeing in 2026 is the metastasis of this cancer. Right now they aren't just standing in lines. They're actively obstructing arrests. They're physically intervening. They've convinced themselves that because they buy organic and drive a hybrid, that they are morally authorized to override the federal government. It's a mass psychosis. We call this main character syndrome, and now it has a body count. But who's winding them up, right? The question is, who is profiting from this? Follow the money. Meet Angie Vargas. She's the influencer known as Angie the Ice Chaser. She drives around Los Angeles in her Mercedes, by the way, filming herself harassing federal agents, and then she uploads it to TikTok. She has over 200,000 followers. Angie the Ice Chaser. And guess what else she has, right? She has a GoFundMe that has raised over $123,000. She says it's for gas and for equipment. Here she is, Angie the Ice Chaser.
Have you heard about Angie the Ice Chaser? Angie the Ice Chaser from Los Angeles, who fucks with ICE every
Sorry about the
day.
language.
She follows them. She tails them wherever they go. She lays down on her horn, fucking with them. So jack shit to app. If anybody wants to contribute to
And they do $123,000. That is a lot of gas. Unless she's driving a tank that runs on liquid gold, that money is going straight into her pocket, right? This isn't activism, guys. This is a business model, okay? She is monetizing the adrenaline of bored housewives. She gets the clicks, you get the felony charge, right? It's a pyramid scheme of misery. And this isn't random, guys. This is organized because just last month in Brooklyn, New York One reported 1,300 people packed into a church for what they call agitation training. 1,300. In Charlotte, North Carolina, they're holding role play sessions in community centers where soccer moms practice getting arrested, right? They have whistles, they have know your rights cards. It's like a Tupperware party, but instead of plastic bowls, you get a federal indictment. They're treating obstruction of justice like it's a spin class at Equinox, and they bring their kids. One woman in Minneapolis told a reporter she brought her baby to a riot so that the child could feel the energy. Right? That isn't parenting. That's child endangerment masquerading as virtue. They're bored. They're wealthy, and they're trying to fill the God-shaped hole in their lives with the thrill of chasing men with guns. And they're horny. Let's be real. They're bored, they're lonely, and they're horny, and they need a man in their lives, and because they're so repellent, they can't get a man in their lives, so they substitute it with the thrill of being chased down by big, strong men who work for ICE.
Just register Republican. Just register Republican. You're a blue dot in a red area. Just register Republican. Then you get a say in who gets to be their primary candidate. Register Republican. Just
Look at
register
those.
Republican. It doesn't matter.
Look at her eyes. You don't even need to hear what she has to say. You can tell right now. She is a lunatic. This is a woman who has got the cobwebbiest of nays. The webbiest of nays. She's alone. She's miserable. Look at that right there. You could tell this is exactly what I'm talking about right here, right? Their only thrill is chasing men with guns and desperately hoping that those big, strong men will grab them and throw them to the ground and ravish them and fulfill their deepest, darkest fantasies. And the worst part, of course, is the people cheering them on in this, they will never be in the line of fire. Right? Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Mayor Jacob Frey, State Senator Julia Salazar in New York, they tweet about the resistance from their guarded offices. They tell these women that they're heroes, right? They wind them up like toy soldiers and point them at the federal government. But when the shots are being fired, when people are getting killed, Ilhan Omar isn't there, right? Renee Good is there alone. All right, these politicians are using your wives and mothers as human shields for their ideology. They want martyrs. They want a body count so that they can fundraise off of the outrage. Don't give it to them. So let this be a wake-up call. If you're a suburban mom and you're bored, go volunteer at a food bank. Go read to your kids. Join a book club. Join a Pilates class, but do not think for 1 second that your status protects you when you interfere with a federal arrest. The agents you are screaming at aren't the manager of Target. They are armed officers of the United States government charged with removing dangerous people from this country. And to the husbands who are watching, it's time to take charge. It's time for the patriarchy again. You know what? For the last decade, we've seen all these memes and TikToks and reels about women and girls checking our phones. Men, it's time to check your wife's phone. right? It's time to check her WhatsApp groups, right? It's time, right? If she's talking about direct action or ICE watch, you need to lay down the law. It's time to have a serious conversation, because the next time that she leaves the house in that Honda Pilot, she might not be coming back. Okay, Renee Good found out the hard way. Don't be next. I'm Austin Peterson. This is Wake Up America. Hope you're all doing well today. Click the like button. If today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well. If you can come back and join us 5 days a week, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the Wake Up America show. 573-319-1586 is our text line. You can send us a text. Again, 573-319-1586 is the text line. We'd love to hear from you. We have bonus content for you guys. If you'd like to unlock the bonus content, the mini documentary today, we can do so just by raising enough money to do so. And the first level of our bonus content unlocks at phase 1 when we raise $100. So far, we've raised $20. Thank you very much. I didn't even see that we were getting that much. Did somebody go to the grift shop? Oh, I don't know. So thank you very much for that. We're well on our way to unlocking phase 1. Phase 2, we unlock the bonus content at $200 today. We'll play the Great Grift Off. All we got to do is sell one ticket to the Boston Liberty Tour, and that will help us to get to our goal of selling 10 tickets. And if we do that, we'll unlock the bonus content today. So right now is a good time to do so, especially because if you plan on bringing a friend or family member, we've got a 25% discount going on right now. If you use the code Boston25, that's Boston25, you'll save 25%. Looks like we've had a couple of orders this morning on the Grift Shop. So we're almost halfway to our first phase of bonus content. Thanks, guys. Brad, check out those numbers. Looks like we got a couple of sales, but today's the day. If you want to get your tickets for the Boston Liberty Tour, highly recommend that you buy those tickets now during the live show so that you can get that discount and so that you can, of course, unlock the bonus content today on the Wake Up America show. You want to do it? Do you guys want to see the bonus content instead of commercials for our guests? Let's do it. All right. Well, it's time for us to move on.
Grim news, but also Scott Adams, one of my closest friends and one of the legendary cartoonists, passed away today after a long bout with cancer. You may never understand or know the impact of him, but you got to trust me on this. I've been on the show for 15 years. You've come to know me, and I'm telling you that my career wouldn't be the way it is if it wasn't for Scott Adams, who's been a mentor to me and a close friend. He had more of an impact on politics and policy than most people on this planet ever will. I do think that there are 3 people that have changed this country in the last 10 years, Trump, Musk, and Scott Adams. And I have a feeling that both Trump and Elon would agree with me on that one. So I'm going to talk about Scott more on the show tonight. Jess, what? Let's drink.
Let's drink.
Yep. Drink.
Scott Adams.
Yes.
Scott Adams, everybody.
Have the simultaneous sip.
There we go. Scott Adams, rest in peace. All right, we have to shift gears now because the first segment made you angry at the delusion of the suburbs. This next story should make you furious at the malice of the media. So by now you've heard the news. Scott Adams, creator of Dilbert, one of the most singular, fascinating minds of the last 40 years, passed away yesterday after a battle with prostate cancer. Now, usually in a decent society, when a cultural icon dies, a man whose work hung in every cubicle in America for 3 decades, you might show a little respect, right? You talk about his impact, you talk about his humor, but we do not live in a decent society, right? We live in a society that is run by vultures, right? If you look at the headlines this morning, you'll find the New York Times headline, Scott Adams, disgraced cartoonist who spouted racist rhetoric, dies. People magazine, Dilbert comic pulled after cartoonist's rant, creator dead. Take a look at how the Washington Post reported the death of a literal terrorist who killed Americans. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, a austere religious scholar at helm of Islamic State, dies at 48. Scott Adams, compared, disgraced Dilbert creator, dies at 68. This is the media. You do not hate them enough. The body wasn't even cold before they started to rewrite his entire existence. I mean, they didn't write an obituary, of course. They wrote a hit piece. They want you to remember Scott Adams as a racist, as a conspiracy theorist, and a pariah. Why? Was it because of one podcast rant in 2023? No, that's the excuse. The real reason why they hate Scott Adams is much simpler. He humiliated them. He was smarter than them. And worst of all, he was right about Donald Trump when they were all dead wrong. Before we get to the politics, let's just remember, why we listened to him in the first place. For 30 years, Scott Adams wasn't a political figure, right? He was the voice of the American worker. He gave us Dilbert, and Dilbert wasn't just a comic strip. It was a documentary. Adams saw the soul-crushing reality of corporate America before anyone else did, right? He gave us the pointy-haired boss, the incompetent, buzzword-spewing manager who fails upwards. Adams taught us that the people in charge aren't evil geniuses. They're idiots. They're bureaucrats protecting their pensions. And then once you saw the world through the Dilbert filter, you couldn't unsee it. You realized that the pointy-haired boss wasn't just in your office. He was in the FDA. He was in the Department of Education. He was running the Pentagon. Right? Adams demystified authority. He taught us to laugh at the experts, and for that alone, the establishment wanted him gone. But the real war started in 2015, right? So this is the part of the story that the New York Times wants to bury. Go back to the golden escalator. When Donald Trump announced, every pundit, every data nerd at 538, every conservative intellectual at the National Review laughed, right? They said he's a clown. He has a ceiling of 15%. Right? Scott Adams was the only public intellectual who looked at the camera and said, "You are wrong. He is going to win in a landslide." Why? Because Adams understood something they didn't. He wrote a book called Win Bigly. He introduced us to the concept of the master persuader. He explained that, while Hillary Clinton was talking about policy papers and 12-point plans, right, Trump was using linguistic kill shots, low energy Jeb, crooked Hillary, lion Ted. Right? The media thought that those were just schoolyard insults and they would have no effect. Adams explained they were military-grade psychological weapons. Scott Adams kind of showed us the code of the Matrix while the journalists were still staring at a screensaver, right? And he kept doing it. During COVID, while the rest of the world lost its mind, Adams was one of the few people asking dangerous questions about the data. Right, there's a famous strip from 2021 where when Catbert, who is the evil HR director, tells an employee, "When you signed your employment documents, you agreed to let us manipulate your DNA, so roll up your sleeve," right? He nailed it. He saw the coercion coming from the mandates. He saw them coming before they even dropped, right? He saw that the science had become a religion, and he mocked it. Right? This is the sin that the media can never forgive. You can be wrong in Washington and survive. I mean, look at Bill Kristol. Right? But you cannot be right and mock the people who are wrong. That is the capital offense. Now we have to address the elephant in the room, the cancellation. All right, the New York Times leads with this, so we're going to talk about it. All right. In 2023, Adams went on a rant about a Rasmussen poll. The poll asked Black Americans if it is okay to be white, and a shocking percentage said no or not sure. Adams looked at that data and said, effectively, if a group hates you, get away from them. He called it a hate group. Was that blunt? Yes. Was it the kind of thing that would get you fired in modern America? Absolutely. And he knew it. But here's the difference between Scott Adams and every other cucked conservative celebrity. He didn't apologize. He didn't do the hostage video where he cries and begs for forgiveness from the online mob, right? He doubled down. He said, "I'm a free man and I will say what I see." They stripped his comic from every newspaper in America. They tried to bankrupt him and he just laughed. He started a locals community and he kept talking. He chose his dignity over a mainstream media syndication deal. This is what really terrifies the media. All right, Scott Adams had what we call FU money. He didn't need the Washington Post. He didn't need the Los Angeles Times. Right? He did what I'm trying to do, which is build a direct relationship with his audience. Right? He was the prototype for the Wake Up America show and Austin Peterson and all of our Liberty friends over there watching us online right now, right? He showed that if you have the talent and you tell the truth, you don't need the gatekeepers. And that's why they're spitting on his grave today, right? Because he proved that they are obsolete, right? They canceled him and he didn't disappear. He just moved to a different platform and kept influencing the culture. They couldn't kill his voice then, so they're going to try and kill his legacy now. So here's the lesson for today. When you read those headlines and they're calling him disgraced, just remember who's writing them. These are the same people who told you the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinfo. These are the same people who told you that inflation was transitory, right? These are the same people who told you Joe Biden was sharp as a tack until the debate revealed he was really a vegetable, right? Their judgment means nothing. Scott Adams was a genius. He was flawed like any other human being. He was provocative and he was cranky, but he was a free man. And he died a free man on his own terms, having said exactly what he wanted to say. And in 2026, that is a rare and beautiful thing.
Well, if you didn't already know, I am unusually mentally tough. So while this could be much worse, for some people, I suppose, I'm handling it quite well. The pain is tough. I mean, really tough. But the mental part, I got that under control. And I can see in the comments that some of you are having a tough time with it. But remember, nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. So I hope you don't mind that I hid it from you. I wanted as many normal months as I could get. Well, if you didn't already know, I am unusual.
Today we're gonna raise a mug of Founding Flavors coffee to Scott Adams. He loved his coffee. He credited it with half his productivity. So Scott, thank you for Dilbert. Thank you for Win Bigly. Thank you for teaching us that if we think the world is run by idiots, we aren't crazy. We're just paying attention. You were the prophet of the Trump era, and you will be missed. Rest in peace. We're going to talk to Judge Napolitano here in about 20 minutes. All right, guys. Thank you very much for all of your support this morning. It looks like we're well on the way to unlocking our bonus content. Thank you, guys. It's nice to see Relaxing McGroin, Heart of Erie, Real Science Questions. Melly B, my old schoolmate and bus friend, St. Selma's here with us. BB for Liberty, my lovely wife, Stephanie, M&M's, Thormock, Barney Styles. Great to see you guys. Are any of you guys who haven't bought your tickets yet, are any of you planning on coming with us to Boston for the Boston Liberty Tour? Can we shout out in the chat? I'd love to hear you guys sound off. Let me know if you're thinking of coming, but you haven't got your tickets yet, because I just want to remind everybody who's watching the Wake Up America show now that if you are thinking of coming with us in Boston, that we do have a bit of a deadline for the trip to happen. And we have an even shorter deadline for you to be able to get a discount if you're going to bring more than one person, right? So the deadline is not just like a sales tactic, guys. We have to book the sunset cruise that we're going to take in the Boston Harbor area. So, and we need to do that ahead of time just so we can make sure that we're all together for the trip. You're going to get on this trip me, you're going to get my brother Justin, you're going to get my wife Stephanie, all three of us together on this trip. We're going to go for a walk on the Freedom Trail. We're going to visit some of the sites where our patriotic revolutionary ancestors planned the American Revolution, and all of this on the 250th anniversary. So we do have a couple of deadlines in order for this trip to work. So if you're thinking about coming with us to Boston, my friend Relaxing McGroin, then let's get those tickets booked as soon as possible. And ideally now, so that we can fully unlock the bonus content, but also because I want you to be able to get those discounts. And I want to be able to book that sunset cruise as soon as possible so that we can all be together in Boston on our tours. We've got incredible events planned for you guys, nice restaurants, beautiful views of the city of Boston in the evening, sunset tours over the harbor. It's going to be absolutely beautiful, but we have a limited time to make this happen. So head over to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Head over to forlibertyshop.com this morning, book your tickets, and let us know if you're thinking about going. Melly says that she wants to go on the trip, but she started a new job that won't let me take off maybe next year. Maybe next year, yes. Relaxium says, I need to go back to the East to book some mass holes. Well, there you go. So get your ticket, Relaxium McGroin, and then you can plan your trip and go and see some of your mass hole friends while you're out there. So join me, Stephanie, Justin, for a 2-day incredible tour on the 250th anniversary of the Revolution of the United States. We'd be glad to join you all, have you all join us in Boston, Massachusetts. So we've got breaking news out of Washington, D.C. If you listen closely, you can hear the sound of 1,000 mayors screaming into their pillows. So President Trump announced today that effective February the 1st, that's less than 3 weeks from now, the federal government is going to be cutting off funding to sanctuary cities and states. He is pulling the plug. He's pulling the plug finally. He said, we're not making any payments to anybody who supports sanctuary cities. All right. Now watch what happens next, right? The mayor of New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, right? They're going to... This is what Trump is going to say to sanctuary cities. Look at his reaction here. What was that? What was that, Mr. President? What do you say to the sanctuary cities, Mr. President? Hold on, you guys, tell me if you could tell what I'm saying right now. Let's do a little bit. Now, this is not to you, but this is at you, but it's not to you, right? See if you can read what I'm saying here. Hold on. Let me get it. Look right there. Let's pull it right back up right here, guys. I think he's saying, thank you. And then he's showing his ring finger. He's like, I'm not wearing my ring finger today. Melania and I are having a fight. Thank you. No, free lunch. Is that what he's saying right there? Can we get a lip reader over here? What is he saying? Thank you. Yes, very, very much so. Thank you too, Mr. President. So they're going to call this racist, right? They're going to use every buzzword in the book, right? But let's translate what's actually happening here, okay, right? So these cities have spent the last decade telling the federal government to go to hell, right? They've passed laws forbidding their police from working with ICE, okay. They've declared themselves independent city-states that do not have to follow federal immigration law. Okay, fine. That's your choice. But they also expected the federal government, meaning you, the taxpayer in Missouri and Texas and in Florida, to keep writing them checks. Right? They wanted to be independent, but they wanted to be on your allowance. Well, Dad just announced that he's cutting up your credit card, right? So this is the Wake Up America reality check. You cannot have a subsidized rebellion. We cannot continue to subsidize these sanctuary cities. You cannot declare war on the federal government and then demand federal grants to pay for your roads and police, right? New York City receives billions of dollars in federal aid. But in August, the Department of Justice listed them as a top sanctuary jurisdiction. Right? They want the benefits of the union without the responsibilities of the union. Right? Trump is applying a very simple principle here. Incentives matter. If we pay you to be a sanctuary for criminals, you will keep doing it. Right? If we stop paying you, suddenly those moral principles might get a little bit expensive. Suddenly Mayor Adams might have to explain to his voters why the subway budget is slashed because he refused to let ICE deport a convicted felon. Or Mayor Mamdani, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble getting in my mind that Zoran Mamdani is now the new mayor of New York City. Right, same concept for the bloated welfare states of Europe. we're subsidizing the national defense of the UK and of these quote unquote Western socialist welfare states. What happens to the National Health Service in the UK if they have to pay for their national defense? You know, money is fungible. If you spend $1 on something, you can spend it on something else. You can spend $1 on one thing, you can spend it on another. It can be spent in myriad ways. So if you all of a sudden have to spend money on your defense, that money isn't going to be available for you to spend on your welfare states. That's why I think that it's a good idea for us to pull out of NATO, or at least do what Donald Trump is doing. At least do what Donald Trump is doing and force Europe to pay for more of their own defense. Then watch their bloated welfare states collapse. Then no more lectures from privileged, effete leftist professors talking to us about how socialized medicine is so great and how the free market system has failed. No more lectures from Euro poors about their socialist welfare schemes and their redistribution schemes, because if they have to pay for their own national defense, how will they be able to afford to pay for their national health services? This is another reason why we need to remove the funding tree. We need to dry up the funding, not only to Europe, but we need to dry up the funding to these sanctuary cities. I say, let them crash. And let's be clear about who they are protecting, right? The media tells you sanctuary laws are about protecting innocent immigrants who are scared to report crimes. That is a lie. That is a lie from the pit of hell. Here's the data. On December 1st, 2025, the Department of Homeland Security released a report on just New York alone. Sanctuary New York released 7,000 criminal aliens back onto the streets, despite the fact that they had ICE detainers, right? They didn't turn these criminal illegals over to ICE. They released them back out onto the streets. And who were these 7,000 people? They included murderers, terrorists, sexual predators. In Minneapolis, in Sanctuary City, Minneapolis, local policies allowed a man named Mahad Abdul Qadir Yusuf to roam free. He was a convicted sex offender. Right? ICE finally arrested him on New Year's Eve, but for years he was prowling the streets because Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey wouldn't let their police pick up the phone. Right? It's not about protecting the vulnerable. It is about protecting predators at the expense of the citizens. And now finally get ready for the legal fight, of course. The Democrats will sue. They will claim the president can't do this, but there is precedent. It's a Supreme Court case called South Dakota versus Dole. The court ruled that the federal government can condition funds if it relates to the general welfare. If you want federal law enforcement grants, you have to enforce federal law. It's that simple. If you want to run a rogue state, go ahead. Right? Raise your own taxes, print your own money, but do not ask the forgotten men and women of this country to finance their own replacement. February 1st is coming, and the free ride is over. So we're going to talk to Judge Andrew Napolitano here in just about 12 minutes this morning on the Wake Up America show. I hope you're enjoying the show this morning. Click the like button if you haven't already. We'd love to have you be a regular guest of this show. If you have never watched the Wake Up America show until today, welcome. I'm Austin Peterson. We're glad to have you here. If you click the follow button over on Rumble, you're going to get a notification whenever we go live, which is Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the Wake Up America show schedule. All 110 of you guys who are watching us over on rumble.com this morning, I'm glad and grateful to have you here. I want to remind you again for the umpteenth time to get your tickets for the Peterson's Patriots Boston 250th anniversary tour. My recommendation to you guys, if you've never visited the Grift Shop before, head on over to forlibertyshop.com this morning. Take a look at the Peterson's Patriots tour. If you're new, you're probably not going to jump on a whole ass trip to me with me and my wife and Justin to Boston. I get that. But definitely check out all of our other incredible products that we have, including our brand new FAFO collection. F around. Find out. 111, I'm here, says RVolt24. 113 now. Nice to see you, bud. The FAFO collection is available at forlibertyshop.com. Get your Uncle Trump FAFO shirt or our FAFO Heritage mug. If you click on that snake right there, it'll take you to the FAFO collection so you can see all of our wonderful products. I like the FAFO Heritage coasters. Some people might be interested in the sweatshirt. We've got an embroidered FAFO snapback trucker hat and a FAFO Heritage t-shirt or a mug. Get that at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. My recommendation to you, though, is if you've never tried our Founding Flavors coffee, ask anybody in the chat. They will tell you it's some of the most delicious coffee they've ever had. If you've never had Founding Flavors coffee, but you've been curious to try it, I put together a nice discounted bundle for you guys. So go to the coffee page and get yourself an AP for Liberty favorite coffee bundle. These are my top 3 picks, my recommendations. When you go to forlibertyshop.com, then click on the coffee button. It'll take you to the coffee page. The bundle's up top. And then all of our, if you want to just buy a single one there together, totally get it. Check out these reviews. These are 5-star reviews, 4.8 star reviews, 5-star reviews, 4-star reviews. People freaking love our Founding Flavors coffee. Dozens and dozens of reviews. You can even read all of the reviews that we get on our website if you just click on the reviews page and just check out what people are saying. So based on 361 reviews, if you have bought products from us before, please make sure to leave your review. A nice 5-star review would be very grateful. 5 stars would really help grow our shop because these get syndicated out on Google. So people who don't know us, they can see all of the incredible stuff we have. Look at Siggy's mom. Check it out. Siggy's mom has got it going on. Siggy's mom has got it going on. She got this Founding Fathers pop art blanket. You literally cannot find these things anywhere else on the internet because we designed them here in-house. Look at somebody there's drinking Founding Flavors Martha's Mint with amaretto liqueur. That actually looks really good. Jimmy Joe Patty's drinking Jeffersonian Java as we speak. Andy loves him some Martha's Mint. You can now, we made it so you guys loved Martha's Mint so much that we made it available year round. Some people even have it on a subscription delivery, which is a great way to help support the shop. We've got ladies earrings, patriotic earrings, t-shirts. So it's fun to check out the reviews page just to see what people say. And people also, they write hilarious reviews. Martha, I love to savor your every flavor on the weekends as I retreat for a treat of Martha's Mint. The mornings are blissful, innocent, and just ever so sweet. But as the day goes on and as the sun slips below the horizon, I tend to slip in some amaretto and who knows what or how the evening goes. But one thing I do know, Martha, our endeavors are quite relished. Everyone compliments your captivating aromas. I'm very pleased to know that you will soon be offered not only seasonal, but now a staple and a great tribute to the For Liberty shop. Thanks, AP, and thanks, Brad, for reaching out. Lowered expectations. All right, guys, we're going to go to a commercial break because we haven't quite unlocked the bonus content yet. But if somebody goes and buys a box of Founding Flavors coffee and maybe a t-shirt, or somebody drops $5, $10, $15 into the tip jar, we'll basically be there. $100. That'll unlock the bonus content so that you can watch the mini documentary instead of commercials. We'll be right back. You're watching the Wake Up America show. Judge Napolitano's up next on the Wake Up America show's For Liberty Network.
When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a redcoat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America. Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the 4 Dilbert tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at 4libertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. Look, not all t-shirts are created equal. Some just sit there. Others start conversations. The ones at 4libertyshop.com, they raise eyebrows, win arguments, and occasionally get you banned from PTA meetings. Whether you're repping freedom, mocking tyrants, or just making the left squirm, we've got the gear that says what you're thinking. Loud, proud, unapologetic. Grab yours today at 4libertyshop.com, because your shirt should speak louder than your neighbor's bumper sticker. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing. Listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, wide open brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution like a landlocked one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Fanny packs. Because nothing says left freedom like cannonballing. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, fresh cup draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money. America isn't just a place; it's a lifestyle. Stocks are limited, demand is booming. Hit 4libertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers. Order now at 4libertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Approved. You should too. Founding Flavors Coffee. Head over to 4libertyshop.com Morning Rebellions and get everywhere. America gear. Summer is coming at 4libertyshop.com. That's 4libertyshop.com. Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans. Just real coffee, inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest. Against mediocrity, against tyranny, against bad coffee. So this morning, skip the globalist brew. Grab something worthy of a free man's sunrise. Founding Flavors. Now brewing at 4libertyshop.com. This summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine." Whether you're storming the sandbar or just grilling like George Washington with a Bluetooth speaker, this is the gear that lets everyone know. You're not here to play woke. You're here to play cornhole with conviction. So crack open a cold one, fire up the freedom, and rock the merch that makes communists cry. The Summer of Freedom is here, and it's absolutely unapologetic.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today.
Welcome back. Sorry about that long wait, guys. Had little technical challenges. We won't see the judge on video today, but we will have him over the phone. You know, we spent a lot of time on the show chronicling how the left tries to shred the Constitution. We talk about the administrative state, the censorship regime, and the weaponized DOJ. But intellectual honesty that, you know, the kind that actually matters means, you know, we have to look in the mirror too. When a president that we might generally support says something that sounds less like a constitutional republic and more like a monarchy, we have to talk about it. In a recent interview with the New York Times, President Trump was asked about the limits of his power on the world stage. His answer wasn't about Congress. It wasn't about courts. He said effectively that only my own mind and my own morality restrain him. Now, if Barack Obama had said that, we probably would have been in the streets with pitchforks. So is this just Trump being Trump or a fundamental misunderstanding of the oath of office? Joining us now, former New Jersey Superior Court judge, host of the Judging Freedom podcast, a man who cares more about the Constitution than he cares about being popular at Mar-a-Lago, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show.
Oh, thank you, Austin. I'm sorry for these technical glitches. We're using old-fashioned phones, but it's always good to hear your voice, and it's always a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you, Judge. Thanks for joining us. So, Judge, break this down for us. Your column coming out tomorrow at judgenap.com about what the president said and why it's important.
Well, when the president says that he feels unconstrained by international law, that means he's prepared to reject treaties which restrain American foreign policy. All these treaties were written by the United States, whether it's the UN Charter or the Geneva Conventions or about 5 or 6 other treaties not directly relevant here. Treaty Against Torture is an example of them. But when he says, I don't need international law and nothing constrains me, that manifests a level of totalitarianism which results in murders on the high seas, the kidnapping from the bedroom at 2 o'clock in the morning, and even a killing in the streets in Minneapolis. This is a level of authoritarianism which will strike at the very foundations of the American Republic if it's permitted to continue unabated. It's clear that the president does not recognize his duty to execute the laws faithfully. Key word in the presidential oath, meaning he has to enforce laws whether he agrees with them or not. He has to abide treaties whether he agrees with them or not. He has to accept the Constitution, which he has sworn to preserve, protect, and defend, whether he agrees with certain clauses or not. The clauses here in question, we can talk about tariffs and taxes, but that's not the issue of the moment. The issue of the moment is killing. The issue of the moment is war against another country, which he seems to feel he can do on his own without having to receive the authorization from Congress, which is expressly required by the Constitution. If unchecked, this will manifest itself in a level of authoritarianism, the likes of which will greatly displease the American public.
Now, Judge, many libertarians believe that the United Nations shouldn't exist, that international law shouldn't exist. And the question I guess I might have is that whose job is it to enforce international law if not the United States? I mean, we shouldn't even be a signatory to the United Nations, right?
Well, we are. We wrote it. We signed it. We fund it. It's in the United States, across the street from where I live in New York City. So if we can just decide that certain laws are not going to be obeyed because they're no longer in vogue, they have to be rescinded properly, because no president has the authority to say, I'm going to enforce this law, but I'm not going to enforce the laws with which I disagree. Treaties are in a very unique category. Treaties are the supreme law of the land, like the Constitution. In the hierarchy of authority, they rank superior to federal law, and they are the supreme law of the land. And he took an oath to uphold all that, whether he agrees with it or not, whether the United Nations is doing a good job or not. If you want to get out of it, rescind that treaty, buy the building, kick them out of the U.S., but ignoring treaties to which you've signed, ignoring federal laws that prohibit killing people, results in a level of authoritarianism that knows no bounds.
If a law is deeply immoral, should the president then ignore it?
Well, as a general matter, no. As a general matter, there are ways to address laws that the president views as immoral. It's hard to me to believe that Trump believes a law is immoral. We're talking about laws that restrain him. For example, the Geneva Conventions prohibit torture. The Geneva Conventions prohibit invading a country that does not pose a material national security threat to your country. The Geneva Conventions prohibit parading prisoners around, as they did with Maduro. Who wrote the Geneva Conventions? The United States. So the way to address a statute that is an obstacle to your purposes is to repeal the statute, not to ignore it. If presidents can ignore whatever they want, then their oath is meaningless. Then we're electing a monarch and not a president.
So in some sense, there's kind of a question of intent, right? Because there's so many federal laws on the books, the president can't enforce all of the laws. So in some ways, he does get to pick and choose which laws he chooses to enforce. Isn't that correct?
He doesn't have the assets, the money, or the human beings to enforce all laws. But I'm talking about laws that restrain presidential behavior. Those laws are ordinarily self-enforcing, meaning he abides them because he respects them. I don't think Trump even respects the Constitution, because in his view, might makes right. So asking him if a law is immoral is like asking him who his girlfriend was last week. He's not going to tell you.
Sure, yeah, but for me, I'm curious. We're two libertarians discussing this. I mean, you don't believe that the United Nations should exist, right? You don't. Do you even believe that there should be international law, or should the Constitution govern the people of the United States, and we should enforce our sovereignty and our sovereignty alone? Wouldn't it be better to withdraw from this international system of law?
Well, sometimes talking reduces pressure, and sometimes talking obviates the need for violence. So to that extent, the United Nations provides a forum for it. You know, why would we sign a treaty saying we won't attack the other signatories to this treaty and then go and attack them? I mean, if our signature and the ratification of the Senate means nothing because it's no longer in vogue, then the laws mean nothing. And we have not elected someone who's faithful to the law. We've elected someone who's faithful only to his own instincts. In this case, instincts not well informed, not well grounded, notoriously self-absorbed and impulsive.
I guess I'm an anarchist when it suits the cause of liberty, and a legal scholar when it comes when the law actually does enforce liberty, which is, you know, sort of what you're arguing here, is that these laws.
There's nothing wrong with that. We're in the same category. We're in the same category there. You know, that government is best which governs least, the Jefferson. The next logic is that government is better which governs not at all. But we can't really collapse the government overnight, or Minneapolis would look like a playpen.
Would you pull the United States out of the United Nations, Judge, if you could, if you had the power?
Yes.
Why?
Yes, I would, for the reasons that we both understand. I mean, it's a gaggle of lefties who do not have liberty in their hearts. However, to the extent that it provides a forum to air grievances, and to the extent that it restrains needless violence, and sometimes it does, it serves its purpose.
Sure, but can't the globalists just, you know, write their own checks and rent out a hotel ballroom like normal people do? If we have to have a conversation, maybe we should just send an email, Judge, instead of having all that real estate taken up across the street from where you live in New York City. I mean, I've always been an anti-international law, anti-United Nations libertarian, because I see them as globalists who, like you say, work against our interests. So in some ways, international law, there really is no international law. It's more like international anarchy, isn't it? Every nation does what's in their own best interest, despite what's international law. Every country does what's good for their own country. I mean, who enforces international law but the United States? And every country only wants to hold the United States to international laws when it's to the detriment of the United States. Isn't that true?
No, I don't think it's true. Every country wants to enforce international law when it's to the benefit of that country. But many of these international regulations are profound and deeply libertarian, like the Convention Against Torture, like you can't strike another country, you can't initiate aggression against another country unless they pose an imminent, immediate material threat to your national security. I mean, that's about as close to Rothbard as you can get. Trump has just cast that aside because he wants oil.
Well, everybody wants oil. The question is, how do we get it? And that leads me to our next question. I've only got a few more minutes with you. Do you believe, Judge, that these corporations like ConocoPhillips and Exxon, when they sign a contract, right? And with libertarians, we believe in private contracts as sacred and they should be enforceable. When a communist regime like Chavez and Maduro take over and then they break those contracts, should it be caveat emptor for those corporations? They should not be allowed to defend themselves or their assets in any way. I mean, certainly I know you don't want the government to step in and enforce those contracts internationally, but do you think that it is buyer beware, that if Exxon or Conoco do business in a foreign country and then communists steal their assets, that they just are out of luck?
Well, there is international arbitration. I mean, Citgo won a $7 billion international arbitration as a result of the seizure of its assets in Venezuela. And Venezuela, under Maduro, complied with that. So to the extent that international law provides a forum in which to resolve these disputes, and to the extent that the forum is basically a fair one, that's a positive result. However, the oil company executives that met in the White House last week obviously have caveat emptor, let the buyer beware, on their mind when the CEO of ExxonMobil, without tipping off the president ahead of time, said Venezuela is uninvestable. I don't know if that's a word, but I guess by it he meant we cannot invest in it because of fear, what you just articulated, of the loss of our investment. It's not my money I'm investing the shareholders' money, and I have a fiduciary duty to do so wisely. I can't invest it in an environment where it is likely to be stolen. Then it will take 10 or 15 years for me to get a percentage back of what has been stolen.
Interesting, Judge. These are great conversations. I love talking about abolishing the UN with you, but I know you're very busy this morning. I want to give you a chance to preview what you have coming up on your excellent show, Judging Freedom.
In about half an hour, I'm talking to Professor Mohammed Marandi of the University of Tehran. Born in Ohio, he is as American as you and I are, but he's an Iranian citizen. He's coming to me live from Tehran. He's going to explain to me and to my audience that what you're seeing on Western media has been fomented by CIA, MI6, and Mossad, and the tide has turned. Enormous demonstrations in favor of the regime. A harsh, dictatorial regime, but one determined not to be overthrown by American and Israeli and British intelligence agents. I expect that that's what he'll say. That's at 10 this morning. At 2 this afternoon, Max Blumenthal, and at 3 this afternoon, Phil Giraldi.
Judge Andrew Napolitano, host of Judging Freedom. Thanks for coming on and debating the United Nations and international law. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Austin. All the best.
Thank you. Watch his show, Judging Freedom, on any of your mobile devices. We've got another guest coming up in a little bit less than 10 minutes. I have to say, I don't know what to think anymore. I don't really know how to feel anymore. I mean, I could probably count the number of libertarians that I agree with on, especially foreign policy, but on almost any other policy anymore. I'm, you know what? I have to admit, I'm changing my mind, right? I don't agree with any of that, pretty much. I mean, it's like you could take any other dozens of views. I mean, I agree that we should pull out of the UN, and I agree that we should not be subject to international law, but it just feels as if like America and Israel are always in the wrong. The Iranian regime, a terrible regime, but should not be overthrown by the Americans and the Israelis. Really? Really? You don't think that the people of Iran are desperate to be freed from the yoke of those tyrannical dictators? I mean, I see your comments. I know how you feel. I still have them on because we're old friends and because I want to hear those points of view and because it's important for me to be checked because honestly, I feel, I don't know, just a little bit lost these days. In some ways, I don't feel lost. In some ways, I'm actually very, yes, Millet. When I read Javier Millet and I hear what he's saying and I see what he's doing, I'm like, yes, this is libertarianism as I understand it. This is a pragmatic view while holding to a set of austere principles, but still doing what is in the best interests of the people who hold these ideas. We have to protect libertarianism, but now more and more, I can't believe I'm saying this. We have to protect liberty from libertarians. Does that make sense? It doesn't. It shouldn't make sense, but I think it does. The cause of liberty must be defended from the people who hold the ideology of libertarianism. Yeah, we need these discussions, right? I've changed to some extent, and in some ways I haven't. Right, but you thank God for Javier Millet, or I would feel like I have completely just gone off of the reservation. If it weren't for Javier Millet, I would feel as if I was not a libertarian anymore. Because if everybody who claims to be a libertarian, at least in the United States, is really what libertarianism is, I am not fucking that. I am not that. I mean, and this does not necessarily apply to the judge, right? But to many other people that I've known, they are to a man degenerates, losers, nihilists. They hate the government far more than they love freedom, far more than they love liberty. They don't care about what happens to the United States. They don't care about what happens to their fellow citizens. They don't really care about anything. Many of them, they care to claim about liberty. It's bullshit. For them, it's just an identity because they wouldn't be interesting otherwise. If they didn't have, quote unquote, the philosophy of liberty, they would have no friends. They would have nothing to belong to. In many ways, these libertarians are like the communists who put themselves in between the ice age. They're like Rene Good. They have no meaning in their lives. And so their nihilism, their lack of belief in anything, has caused them to take such bizarre positions as to support Russia. They're against foreign interventionism unless Russia is doing it, and Russia is only doing it because the United States and Israel are putting pressure on them. No one else, the terrorists, Osama bin Laden, this is a common belief in libertarians in the United States, not overseas, not in Argentina for sure, that Osama bin Laden was justified in what he did because the United States shouldn't have been supporting Israel, because that's why Osama bin Laden said he attacked us, right? The anti-Semitism, the retardation, the low IQ anarchists posing as philosophical geniuses, they're all fucking stupid. They're stupid. You know what the problem is with the libertarian movement? They cannot entertain an idea without accepting it. They can't even entertain an idea without accepting it. They are ossified. They are fossilized. They are irrelevant. And I refuse to follow them into the dustbin of history. Instead, I will follow Javier Milei to relevance. We've got another guest coming up next. He's running in Florida against Representative Randy Fine, claims that Fine is a globalist warmonger. Guys, we're so close, I think, to unlocking the bonus content. If you agreed with what I just said, guys, donate $20 to the Wake Up America show. You've got to help the For Liberty Network survive, guys. We have got to grow something new. It's time for a new libertarian movement. If you haven't had a phone call, if you haven't had a conversation with me lately, send us a text with your phone number. Say, hey, Austin, give me a call. It's time to talk about a new liberty movement. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
The summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine." Whether you're storming the sandbar or just grilling like George Washington with a Bluetooth speaker, this is the gear that lets everyone know. You're not here to play woke. You're here to play cornhole with conviction. So crack open a cold one, fire up the freedom, and rock the merch that makes communists cry. The Summer of Freedom is here. And it's absolutely unapologetic. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense. But you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com. Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the For Liberty tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at forlibertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a redcoat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Grateful and glad to have you here. You know, every election cycle, we say the same thing. We need new blood. We need to primary the establishment. We need to replace the uniparty with real America First patriots. And in Florida's 6th congressional district, that's exactly what this challenger is promising. He's running against the Trump-endorsed incumbent, Randy Fine, claiming that Fine is a globalist, a warmonger, and that he, the challenger, is the true voice of the grassroots. Sounds like a classic battle for the soul of the Republican Party. Joining me now to discuss his campaign against Representative Randy Fine, it's Aaron Baker. Good morning, Aaron. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Glad to have you here, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running against the incumbent.
Well, I was born in Lakeland. I grew up on the beaches of Daytona Beach all the way up to Flagler Beach. Spent all my summers on those beaches with my great-grandparents that lived in Winter Haven. My grandparents lived in Lake Wells. I grew up in a very small town in western Kentucky of about 5,000 people on a 160-acre farm. So very proud of, I'm probably the only congressional candidate that knows how to hang tobacco in a tobacco barn. I've said previously in the race that I was the only congressional candidate that knows how to milk a cow, but that turned out not to be the case. Another one of the congressional candidates knew how to milk a cow also. So to me, this area is just steeped in history. We have the First Coast, the oldest city in America, St. Augustine. It's such a beautiful area, and it's right now so underrepresented by a congressman that has literally created a flyover district. There's no two ways about it. If you live 100 miles south of the district and you go back and forth to D.C., that's literally a flyover district. I'd originally gotten into this race last year in the special election, and I was brought into the race because some other Republicans approached me and said, hey, Aaron, this guy is the worst of the worst of the worst. And I thought about it, and I'm like, well, he's a Republican. It can't be that bad. Then you start doing, 5 minutes worth of homework, and you Google Randy Fine ethics, and it's just page after page after page of, everything possible that this man has done. So I said, I'm in.
Okay. I've been on the bad end of the president's endorsement in a primary. It didn't work out very well. You're primarying him. Donald Trump says that Randy Fine has his complete and total endorsement. So why should the voters in Florida's 6th district fire the president's pick and hire you instead?
Because I live here. Randy Fine has had almost a year now to move to the district after he was elected. He told Marjorie Taylor Greene when he was elected that he, looked forward to moving to Washington, look forward to doing all the Washingtonian things. And that's not what Congress is meant to be. Congress is meant to be your first line of defense between the people and the government. So first and foremost, the number one thing that you should do is provide constituent services. Mr. Fine has set up offices in all 6 counties. However, they're in police stations and government buildings. If you have a problem with your federal government, do you want to go to the police station and, say, well, here's my problem with the federal government? That doesn't really set well with me. Congressman Waltz, who was the previous holder of this seat, did a very good job of having offices that were open. And I know that because I walked into one in Palm Coast. So I just want to get back to a point where this is, it's not about who can say the strangest thing. Mr. Fine's latest rhetoric is that he's introducing legislation to make Greenland part of the United States of America. There's no constitutional authority that Congress has to authorize the president to wage war against a sovereign nation. I suppose that we could declare war on Greenland, but that just seems completely bizarre to me.
Would you be opposed to buying it?
I wouldn't be opposed to buying it if they, if they want to sell it. It would be a great strategic asset to have. But I don't think that the Danish government has the same sentiment at all.
Well, we bought the Virgin Islands from them, and usually there's always things are usually always for sale. Typically, if the price is high enough. But I'm curious about some of your attacks on Randy Fine. You've said that he's engaged in genocidal rants regarding foreign policies. So that's a pretty heavy charge. What has he said that makes him unfit to represent Florida?
So he said, we nuked Japan twice. Maybe we need to do the same thing here. That's calling for us to use nuclear weapons against the people in Gaza. I don't agree with that in any way, shape, or form. He has stated publicly, kill them all, referring to the people in Gaza. I don't agree with that statement. I don't think that we should have representatives in our federal government that's their point of view. We don't need to kill an entire class of people because we don't agree with, what their government does. That's the very definition of I don't know. It's just so baffling to me that you can be so over the top to the point where AIPAC said that they didn't want to have anything to do with him. It's just not good in any way.
So do you think that a majority of voters in your district would agree with you?
Yes, I do. And I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not anti-Jewish. I'm not anti-Muslim. I'm Christian. I was raised Southern Baptist Church. But I believe what I was taught in school and in Bible school, which is love your neighbor as you do yourself. That's not the point that we're at in our government.
Okay. So you're running on an America First platform of restraint. So if you were in Congress right now, how would your vote differ from Randy Fine's on funding for Israel or Ukraine?
Well, I think that we need to get back to a policy very similar to Thomas Massey of we simply need to take care of America before we take care of the rest of the world. And that's not Israel. That's not, Ukraine. That's across the board. I see it every single day. For example, in Flagler County, they need $12.3 million a year ongoing for beach renourishment. Well, we have to protect our beaches in this state overall, because that's where all of our tourism comes from, or a lot of our tourism, the stuff that doesn't come from Disney. But we have to protect our natural resources here for not just right now, but for generations to come. There's much better ways to use our money than sending it to people that like us on Monday and hate us on Tuesday, and vice versa. And it's been an endless cycle of all of the stuff in the Middle East, and I mean, us policing the world. If you look at South Korea, for example, we've been in South Korea for over 50 years, and South Korea only pays for a portion of the defense that we provide between North and South Korea in the demilitarized zone. Why do they only pay for a portion of that? It's a very wealthy country. They could pay for literally all of the expense that the United States government has in the Koreas. I would rather them completely repay us, and then let's put the extra money that we don't have to spend over there toward better roads, better schools, better beaches. That's what it means to be America first. It doesn't mean we take care of the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in our audience agree with this. As a matter of fact, Frank and Bean says, Aaron Baker can do it. Stick to your morals. Thank you for that donation, by the way, Frank and Beans. We appreciate that. And now, Aaron, I told you I was going to ask you about this. There was a hit piece that dropped against you yesterday, and I'm curious to see how you would respond to it. The Washington Free Beacon, they dropped a massive report on you. Here's their claim. They claim that you are living in a house owned by your father, who is a convicted murderer and opioid trafficker. Is that true?
Yes. So I, both myself and my father live in the same household. I've said this on podcasts before. I've said this publicly. He lives on the right side of the house. I live on the left side of the house. One of the things in today's day and age is if you're an American, it is so hard to get by. And this really changed under the Biden administration, where costs just absolutely went sky high. I never realized that, it's just so expensive to live. Basically, for a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house, our mortgage is about $2,500 a month. So I pay my father every month so that we both can actually afford to live. And it's sad that we've gotten to that point in this country, but attainable housing is not on anyone's radar as far as being able to have, houses that are $175,000, $200,000, maybe 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a smaller yard. That real estate does not exist in Florida.
Yeah, I was just reading in the Wall Street Journal actually about how many retirees are getting priced out. They have to leave Florida. Florida actually used to be a place where people who with moderate means could live and retire, but that is changing. Now, the report that came out, it does get worse. The report includes a photo of you partying with a man named Matthew Lucas, who is a registered sex offender who abused a 13-year-old. So my question is, why is a candidate for Congress hanging out with people like that?
I didn't know that until Sunday when the reporter asked me for a comment on the story. I was hired at a company in Maryland because as I said, I lived in Maryland for a good number of years. And Matthew was hired at a neighboring company, and it was joint ownership between the two companies. So I didn't hire him. I didn't fire him. But we both did exactly the same thing. We basically did kitchen and bathroom design. So he worked across the parking lot, and I worked on this side of the parking lot. I had no clue about his past. And we often, not often, but at least once a year would travel together to National Kitchen and Bath Show and different trade shows. So I certainly knew him. I had no clue about his past. I mean, I guess, if I walk out and talk to my neighbor, I don't ask them what their background is. I just assume that you're a good person.
Okay.
I have no idea what your background is.
Right. I get it. So last question on this piece. You're also closely allied with James Fishback. He has also faced serious allegations regarding appropriate behavior with minors. So when you see smoke around so many people in your inner circle, why should voters trust your judgment?
Because I'm always here. I've never lied to anyone. You asked me a straightforward question. I answered the question. I had no clue that things like my father's past would come up because, it's not my father that's running for Congress. It's me. My father's sentence was commuted in 2002, so that was 24 years ago, based on new evidence and new testimony that came up. So I never considered that to be something that would ever be brought up. I just, I didn't know. And, you're saying that, well, he had a coworker that he worked with 3 years ago, that they went and did stuff together. Yeah, we literally worked together. But
do you disbelieve the allegations made against James Fishback? I noted that you were one of the only donors to his campaign, at least as was reported yesterday. So do you disbelieve the allegations that are made against him in an inappropriate relationship that he had as a tutor with a student who is 10 years his minor and a minor?
I've spoken to James about this. I actually spoke to him this morning because someone had called me and told me that I needed to drop out of the congressional race to give someone a better chance or against Randy Fine, because the sentiment is everybody completely does not like Randy Fine. So I spoke to him this morning, and I said, where's this going to go? And he said, yeah, there's smoke, but there is no fire there. So I take him at face value. I do support his candidacy because he's talking about things that do matter. He's talking about, affordability. Washington continues to tell us things are affordable, but when James and I are the ones going to Publix and we understand that, yes, I have to live in a multi-generational household. Yeah, I get it. I don't hear the other candidates talking about that. If you look at Mr. Donalds, for example, gross incompetent amount of stock trades. And, he seems to buy all the right stocks at all the right times.
They all do, don't they? Yes, all Congress. Are you for banning insider trading in Congress, by the way?
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. I don't think that that there's any reason that members of Congress, now, if they want to trade index funds like the S&P overall, I have no problem with that. But I think that there should be a congressional ban on individual stock trading, because let me tell you, these congressmen and women are the best of the best at.
And Nancy Pelosi outperformed Warren Buffett.
Byron Donalds did too. I mean, you're talking about a guy that went to Congress and it was worth $50,000, and 6 years later he's worth $5 million. I mean, this is crazy.
All right. Well, Aaron, we're coming towards the end of our interview here. I want to give you an opportunity. You're asking for a security clearance. You're asking to write laws. So can you look the camera in the eyes and tell the voters no more skeletons in your closet? Why should they vote for you? Make your final appeal. Well,
I truly believe that we have an opportunity to take back America from special interest in this government. Special interest controls every aspect of this government. If you look at our governor's race, one candidate's race, $45 million, about $43 million of that is from corporate interest. If you look at where my donations come from, they're all from individuals. I have one PAC that's supporting me that's given me $1,500 so far, and that's it. I want to represent this district because I care about the people in this congressional district. First and foremost, I have no higher priority than every single constituent. I don't care what color, race, creed you are. I will have your back.
What's your website, Aaron?
FLAaron.com.
FLAaron.com. Aaron, thanks for coming on, and thanks for answering the tough questions. A lot of candidates, they run away. He stood up and he answered all the tough ones. We have a wonderful day and good luck in your election.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's Representative Aaron Baker. There you go. The Wake Up America show gets the big interviews and we ask real questions. And that's why people like my old friends from elementary school come and hang out with us on the show. Heather, what's going on? Heather and Melissa, it's nice to see all of our friends hanging out with us again on the Wake Up America show. We're here. It's been a fantastic show, and you've unlocked the bonus content. Thank you very much. That little mini documentary is coming up next. Man, I got to go download it. Download the MP4. Sometimes that bonus content comes off of the finish line, just comes off the assembly line, just like 3 seconds before I have to actually play it. But it is time for me to play it. Bam, 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 bam. It's the sad music. Time to end it. Well, I really hope that you guys are going to come back, hang out with us again tomorrow. People like C. Royber, people like Grizz Cheese, people like Heather, all of our friends hanging out with us again tomorrow morning at the same time. So make us your destination listening in the morning. If you want to stay informed, if you want to hear incredible interviews like the one that you just heard. Everybody wanted to get that interview, right? But not everybody would ask the tough questions like your boy AP did, all right? So make sure you come back again tomorrow. But what are we doing tonight, guys? 8 p.m.? I think that we're hanging out with Liberty tonight. 8 p.m. rumble.com slash Liberty tonight. They're asking about loot. We didn't hit the loot level. We only raised level 1 of the bonus content. So you get the mini documentary and you enjoy it. We'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
The Minnesota fraud scandal is just the tip of the iceberg. Medicaid fraud has been endemic at the state and federal levels for decades. Focusing on no one likes high interest rates on credit cards and loans, but artificially lowering interest rates via executive power is not a solution. With a pair of moves over the weekend, President Donald Trump signaled his intention to bully various institutions into providing lower interest rates for American consumers and the federal government. First, Trump called for capping credit card interest rates at 10% in a Truth Social post on Friday. That was swiftly followed by news that the Justice Department was investigating Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell for misleading Congress about the cost of a renovation project. A move that seems like the most blatant yet by the administration to compel Powell to lower interest rates in accordance with Trump's wishes or resign his post. You might think of this as Trump's war on high interest rates. Like other less metaphorical conflicts that the president has started in recent weeks, this one has been launched with little regard for its legality or the possible consequences. What Trump perceives as a pincer movement of populist policies seems likely to backfire in ways that could make credit more difficult to obtain and otherwise destabilize the economy. On the question of credit card interest rates, Trump seems to be on shaky ground both legally and economically. The president does not have the authority to tell credit card companies or any other financial service how much interest to charge. Trump said Sunday that companies would be in violation of the law if they don't lower their interest rates. That is simply untrue because federal banking policy is not set by a social media post. Even so, this is in some ways an understandable impulse. No one likes paying high interest rates or late fees, which former President Joe Biden unsuccessfully tried to cap during his term. And with credit card debt at a record high, there may be some political points to be scored by beating up on companies perceived to be, as Trump put it, ripping off Americans. Capping interest rates, however, would not be without trade-offs. One of those unintended consequences is that banks will reduce or eliminate credit offerings to borrowers who are too risky to justify a 10% annual interest rate, wrote Ryan Young, a senior economist at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Wealthy people will do just fine, as will people with an established credit history. Poorer people and younger people will, in many cases, suddenly be unable to get credit from banks. A 10% interest rate cap would reduce credit availability and be devastating for millions of American families and small business owners who rely on and value their credit cards, the very consumers this proposal intends to help, said a joint statement from several banking industry groups. The administration's move against Powell, which is properly understood as an attack on the political independence of the Federal Reserve, is a similar attempt to bully an institution into adopting Trump's preferred policy. It would likely bring with it a similar set of unintended negative consequences. In this case, Trump's motivations are some combination of political and fiscal. If the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates, that would be good for economic growth in the short term, as it would make everything from car loans to mortgages more affordable. It would also help the federal government's bottom line, since interest payments on the national debt are now one of the largest segments of the budget and cost nearly $1 trillion last year. The trade-offs, however, could be nasty. The Federal Reserve hiked interest rates to combat higher inflation earlier this decade, and inflation has yet to return to the 2% annualized rate that the central bank views as its goal. Many economists believe that lowering interest rates would unleash higher inflation once again, an outcome that might be marginally better for the federal budget, but quite frustrating for consumers and businesses. The history of political interventions in the Federal Reserve is not good for Trump. Most famously, President Richard Nixon pressured Federal Reserve Chairman Arthur Burns to loosen monetary policy before the 1972 election. The result was a weakening of the dollar and a period of stagflation that lingered through the rest of the decade. One hallmark of populist economic policies is that they tend to backfire on the very same population intended to benefit. Trump's tariffs were supposed to resurrect manufacturing and boost American farmers, but they have raised input costs and slowed job growth across a range of blue-collar industries, and triggered another taxpayer-funded bailout for farmers. The president now risks repeating a version of those same mistakes by inserting more misguided populism into how Americans do